In a small town near Florence, Italy, on the night of August 21, 1968, 29-year-old Antonio Lobianco and 32-year-old Barbara Loci were driving. Barbara's 6-year-old son, Natalino, was asleep in the back seat. Suddenly, the car crashed, and when Natalino woke up, he saw a horrifying sight. Both Antonio and his mother, Barbara, were dead, shot multiple times. Shocked and terrified, Natalino ran from the scene. He ended up at a stranger's house, knocking on the door and crying for help. The stranger took him in, and Natalino said, "My daddy is sick in bed, and my mother and uncle are dead in their car." Antonio, the driver, wasn't his father, but his mother's lover. Barbara was known for having many affairs, and this made her husband, Stefano Mille, a prime suspect. Despite the lack of evidence, police pressured Natalino into saying his father was at the scene, leading to Stefano's wrongful conviction and 18 years in prison. 6 years later, another couple, Pasquale Gentile and Stefania Pettini, were found murdered in their car. Stefania had been brutally stabbed and mutilated. The same gun used to kill Antonio and Barbara was also used in the murder of Pasquale and Stefania, which proved that Stefano was innocent of the initial crime. This new evidence led to his release from prison, where he had spent 6 years behind bars for a crime he did not commit. The real killer was still free, and the police now had a terrifying serial killer on their hands, later known as the Monster of Florence. The brutality of the monster's crimes gripped the nation. The killer's methodical approach and the horrific nature of the mutilation suggested a deeply disturbed individual. The fear that spread through Florence was palpable, and the public demanded answers. On June 6, 1981, the monster struck again. Giovanni Foggi and his fiancée, Carmela D'Annunzio, were ambushed in their car. The killer shot them and then mutilated Carmela, taking part of her body as a trophy. The police arrested Enzo Spalletti, who talked about the murders before the bodies were found, but he was innocent and released after 3 months. The monster's killings continued. The next attack was on Paolo Mainardi and Annella Migliorini in June 1982. The monster didn't stop. In September 1983, 2 German artists were killed while on vacation. Another young couple, Claudio Stefanacci and Pia Gilda Rontini, were also brutally murdered in July 1984. Pia's body was mutilated with parts removed. The final victims in September 1985 were French tourists Jean-Michel Krautek-Villy and Nadine Moriot. Their bodies were hidden, and the killer sent a piece of flesh to the state prosecutor as a taunt. Years later, in 1994, Pietro Pacciani, a man with a criminal past, was put on trial. He was found guilty but released 2 years later due to poor police work and lack of evidence. 2 more men, Mario Vanni and Giancarlo Lodi, were convicted, but many believe they were scapegoats. The case against them was built on weak evidence, and many thought the true Monster of Florence was still out there, hiding in plain sight. In 2001, a prosecutor suggested the murders were the work of a satanic cult, using the victims' body parts in rituals. He pointed to a villa with a pyramidal stone as evidence, but many dismissed this as ridiculous. This theory, while sensational, added another layer of mystery to the case. Some believe the Monster of Florence might be the same person as the Zodiac Killer from California. Joe Bevilacqua, an American who moved to Florence, was accused. He was an undercover agent during the Zodiac murders and had access to evidence that could link him to the crimes. Despite the accusations, nothing was proven, and the case remains unsolved. Investigators also considered other suspects, including local criminals and even foreign visitors, but each lead turned cold. The complexity of the case, combined with the lack of concrete evidence, made it one of Italy's most notorious unsolved mysteries. The media frenzy and public speculation only added to the pressure on law enforcement. To this day, the true identity of the Monster of Florence remains a mystery. It's possible the killer was just a sadistic individual who managed to evade capture. But some still wonder if the monster and the Zodiac were the same person, leaving a trail of terror across 2 continents. The chilling thought that such a cunning and ruthless killer could evade justice for so long continues to haunt those who study the case. The Monster of Florence remains a dark legend, a reminder of the horrors that can lurk in the shadows, waiting to strike. Scary to think about, isn't it?